I had an individual, one of my door knockers, picked the individual up, took them over to the office. We had multiple cups of coffee. He got a really, really great equity split on the property. He was delightedly happy. Everything was perfect. And within 10 days, roughly, I got served with this horrific lawsuit.
Welcome to Men of Abundance, the podcast for those looking to level up their lives by hanging out with some of the greatest leaders and established professionals in our community, living a life of integrity, honor, and the abundance mentality. Prepare to pay it forward with your host, former Army medic turned lifestyle entrepreneur, Wally Carmichael.
What is going on, Men of Abundance? I am Wally Carmichael, your founder and host of the Men of Abundance podcast, the Pay It Forward community, proving to you that you can live a life of abundance and prosperity in family, faith, finances, and fitness. Living your best life and living a life of abundance starts with a decision, your decision. Don't get caught up in the how, don't get caught up in the plan. Just make the decision, write it down, be very specific and detailed in what you want your life to look like in a year, 5 years, 10 years from now. Get the pictures, get the picture in your head, get the videos, put all of this stuff in front of you. Don't try to understand why and how this works. I'm just telling you from experience and having conversations with well over 250 people for this show and many others in mastermind groups, books I've read. I mean, you name it. I'm just telling you it works. Today's episode is specifically geared around the finance of living your life of abundance in family, faith, finances, and fitness. Fiscal education is one of the biggest reasons the rich get richer or at least stay rich and the poor get poor. And in this case, I am talking specifically about money rich. And when you get the right education from the right people, then your mindset completely changes because you have a better understanding of what it takes to manage money, earn more money, and strategies so that your money can work for you. This is just one other aspect of being a man of abundance is having enough resources, more than enough resources, so that you can do the things that you want to do and pay it forward so that others can live the life that they want to live. And speaking of paying it forward, be abundant in your actions today by paying it forward and sharing Men of Abundance with everyone you come in contact with. It only takes a couple seconds to mention it to somebody who you know listens to podcasts. If they don't listen to a podcast, then get their phone or show them how to download a podcast player on their phone. If they're on an Apple device, they've already got a podcast player built into their Apple device. Show them how to search and subscribe to Men of Abundance. They will thank you for it. So our featured guest today is Bruce Mack. He's the owner and founder of Platinum Financing Group. He knows that his funding options and asset protection programs are the perfect solution for all business owners to achieve complete financial freedom. With his impressive credentials and decades of experience helping thousands of clients, Bruce has honed a unique skill set and the ideal perspective to help entrepreneurs achieve their goals by implementing customized funding solutions tailored to each client's needs. Bruce is especially passionate on educating clients about asset protection and the tax mitigation benefits through the utilization and implementation of his unique specialized business trust. With a client-first philosophy, Bruce and his team at Platinum Financing Group are working to build whatever their clients need to achieve their dreams. Men of Abundance, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Bruce Mack. Bruce, welcome to Men of Abundance, man. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Wally. Thank you.
Excellent. Where are you at in the world?
Interesting question. I'm actually in a hotel room at the Westin in Sarasota, Florida. I flew down here yesterday from LA, and next week I'll be up in Aspen, Colorado for the duration of the ski season, other than a couple of events that I've got to attend that I'm speaking at. So I'm pretty much here, I'm pretty much there, I'm pretty much wherever I want to be.
So you're right in my backyard and you're living my type of life, man. Life certainly is wonderful, isn't it?
You know, I call it the laptop lifestyle. right?
Yeah.
Come, go, come here, go there, do what you do your business, and be able to enjoy life to its fullest. Because gosh darn it, you only go around once. At least I can't prove to myself that there's a second time around. So I'm doing everything I can the first time.
You know what, Bruce, I chuckle a little bit at that because I'm in so many different circles, and some people will come straight out and say there's no such thing as a laptop lifestyle, sitting on the beach, doing that type of thing. But quite literally, Thursday evening, we're going to take off and we're going to go babysit my son and his wife's dog, while they go on a little couples retreat. And we're going to be driving from out here in Tampa out to Georgia. And on the way, I'm going to be doing some work. And while I'm there, I'm going to be doing, a little bit of answering some emails and working on a few things and connecting with a few clients and whatnot. I can literally do what I do from anywhere in the world as long as I have an internet connection. And
you're preaching to the choir. I'm so blessed because actually I sometimes call it my iPad lifestyle instead of my laptop lifestyle, because if I'm in a car, wifey's driving, and I'm doing some work, then I'm doing that work on the laptop instead, or excuse me, on the iPad rather than on the a laptop, because laptop's a little bigger. But in either event, it's the ability to have the freedom to be able to go where you want, when you want, if you want, and be with who you want, to be able to have a really, truly fulfilled life and lifestyle. And that's what I've tried to architect. Heck, I'm 68 and I feel like I'm 13 sometimes. And it's just about enjoying, because if you're not enjoying, what good is it, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And, it sounds like you have quite a bit to be grateful for, but what specifically are you grateful for today, Bruce?
To quickly summarize, I have to tell you that I'm really grateful for two things: my life and my lifestyle. My life, because I've got a great wife, we've got three great kids, and I'm healthy. I'm in good shape. I'm not overweight. I'm able to get up in the morning and have a good full day's worth of energy and vitality. And I'm really happy for my lifestyle too. I'm grateful for my lifestyle because, as I was saying, I have the ability to be where I want, when I want, if I want, and with who I want. And how much better could it get than that?
You talk a little bit about, based on what you just said, we can get a little bit about who you are as a man, but how would you describe yourself?
Well, some people call me Gadget Boy.
I love gadgets, man.
uh, and I think that that'd be a very, very fair statement, because if there's a new technology, I would like to, put my hand up and say I'm an early adopter. I was the first guy that, well, actually, this goes way back. My dad was the first guy on our block to have a stereo, and and people would come from all around the neighborhood to listen to the stereo. And we had a Fisher stereo, and that was like really cool. And then we were the first ones on the block to have a color TV, and that color TV had a remote control. I mean, think about that. And this is way, way, way back in the 60s, in the early 60s. So I think it's an inbred and generational deal that, with Dad being that way, it kind of passed down to me. And I love gadgets. I love technology. I love new things to get into and figure out how they work and be able to master being able to work them. And likewise, I would say that it has really reflected in my lifestyle to be able to come and go as I please and be able to work with the client base that I've got wherever I am throughout the world.
I love it. I absolutely love it, man. I love gadgets, and between me and my boys, who are completely just tech savvy, uh, we've got so many different types of gadgets. Some of them we use, most of them we just kind of check out and stuff like that. But I'm just a sucker for really cool gadgets, especially when it involves video. I've got all the cool video cameras around the house and access from my phone and all that neat stuff. I just love it. Really cool. It's fun stuff.
Well, you see, my last name is Mack, right? So how could I not be an Apple guy and not have a Mac book, right?
Doesn't make sense.
Just had to be.
Yeah, and that's the way I am too. Some people are down on that. My boys are completely. I don't necessarily want to say they're anti-Mac, but I've had PCs and I went through PCs like shoes. I mean, they just catch a virus or whatever, and they were almost disposable. But this MacBook that I have now, we calculated the other day, goodness, I've had this darn thing a long time, like maybe 5 or 6 years, longer than I've ever had a MacBook or any type of laptop. And then of course I got my iPhone, and I've got I don't do the iPad as much anymore, but it's all connected and I like it that way. But I'll tell you, the with the industry and the all the technology that comes out, and my boys are much more tech savvy than I am. They know all the specs and all this kind of stuff. I'm just like, that's cool. Let me how do I use it? That's what I want to know. I don't get as much involved in all that since I have them around. I'm gonna be sucking when they leave. But my oldest is already out. My second one's getting ready to, and then I got a 9-year-old at home. I need the other two to train him really good.
I'll tell you, I've had PCs. I've had Macs as well, and the fact that everything on the Mac, it may not have the touch screen, albeit except for the iPad, but everything in the Apple environment, it's so nicely integrated. Mm-hmm. I can get everything on my phone that I get on my computer, that I get on my iPad. Everything is now, it's all synced to the cloud. So wherever I am, I just pick up the device that's the handiest and that that's fully charged, and I'm good to go. Yeah, and I have access to all my documents. I have access to all my PowerPoint presentations. I have access to every blipping thing, my entire Rolodex of contacts, and it's so cool. I mean, we're living in an age that we could only dream of. Heck, the other day, I got to tell you a funny story. So I'm a big skier, right? And that's why I'm going up to Aspen for the rest of the ski season for the next couple of months. So I'm walking, and all of a sudden, I was up at actually Mammoth. This is about a month and a half ago. I'm up in Mammoth, and I get the new iPhone watch. Or the iWatch, call it what you will, mm-hmm. the new generation one. So I'm walking and I'm tromping along. I got my ski boots on. And I'm in the parking lot. Everything's going really good. And the next thing I know, whack! I mean, I took such a spill. I went down really hard. Skis went flying, blah, blah, blah. And I was 10 feet from the car. It was just icy on the parking lot. Next thing I know, I'm hearing these like voices, and I'm wondering, did I crack my head? Am I out of my mind? What the heck is going on here, right? So here's what it was, Wally. It was my watch calling or talking to me, asking me if I'm all right and if I want to be connected to 911 and have them send the paramedics because I had fallen and it had detected that I had taken a bad spill, which I had. I mean, I could have been really in bad shape, but I was okay. So I had to quickly get to my watch, turn that off. Otherwise, they would have sent the paramedics. But that's how evolved we've become with this new watch. It's got this detector in there that detects slip and falls and will send the 911 paramedics out after you. It's got an EKG monitor in there. I mean, my good gosh, it's so cool what's going on today in technology and the advantages that we have if we just take advantage of them.
Man, that if you could, my wife's got one of those watches, and I didn't even know it had that capability. Man, that is freaking amazing.
That's the new watch.
We're like in Jetson times now.
Yeah, it's just it's crazy stuff, right? Just
Man,
it's Commander Cody, and you can use your watch these days, right? I've got the little cellular thing built in. If I forget my phone or I want to go out for a run or what have you, and I don't want to carry my phone with me, I get a phone call, boom, goes right to my wrist.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like when I was a kid, and we had the Commander Cody watches, and we were, playing the fact that we could communicate through some sort of modality that we were carrying with us. I mean, it's here and it's now, and it's fantastic.
It is. I just love it, man. That is so cool. So, we were talking about how wonderful life is and how we have this laptop lifestyle and all this kind of stuff. But, we didn't get here by magic. And along the way, there were a couple kick in the gut moments that, may have changed the trajectory of our lives and guided us to what we're doing today, but not always. But if you would, I'd like for you to share one of those kick in the gut moments with us and really make us feel that, either personal or business, whichever you prefer.
Let me share one that was both personal and business, kind of wrapped up into one.
Sweet.
A defining moment in my life. I'm a licensed financial advisor, and I've been one for the past couple of decades. Prior to that, I was a corporate recruiter. For lack of a better word, a lot of people know the term as headhunter, working with executives. And I was placing a lot of insurance executives. And way back in the early 80s, for those of you who were around back then, you might remember that we were in a very bad recession. Second worst recession to the one that we just recently went through in the last 10 years. And we also had a spiraling interest rate market. The interest rate market went up to 22, actually 23%. I mean, crazy stuff. And as an executive recruiter, well, because there were so many layoffs, there really weren't a lot of jobs to be had, especially in the discipline that I was focused on, which was placing insurance executives. So things slowed down, and then things came to more of a grinding halt. The bills kept piling up. They don't stop. They keep coming in regardless, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I did not have the mental fluidity to make the adjustments that I needed to from a business perspective, because I was so much younger, and make the course corrections. And what ended up happening was, Wally, I went and I ended up going bankrupt. And I also, at the same time, became morally and mentally bankrupt, because one oftentimes helps and or is a precursor and precipitates the other. You just get sucked into this deep, dark, very black hole, and it's just this feeling of disparity and inability to get out, and inability to even do anything. I felt completely paralytic at that particular point, and it was decidedly the worst time of my life. And I share this with you because I do have some suggestions if people are falling into that place of despair because they are so overwhelmed that they become what I call paralytic, and therefore the thing that they are doing is nothing.
Yeah, I mean that's specifically what we're here for, Bruce, is to share some of that stuff, and later on in the conversation we talk about where we're going to pay it forward to our abundant leaders, and I'll ask you to share 1 to 3 actionable steps that our guys can take today. But if any of that applies, I mean, just share it, because that's what we're here for. Living a life of abundance in family, faith, finances, and fitness is, it's not always a fully well-rounded machine. There's not always a balance, but there is a counterbalance. And if you don't have your finances right, and guys, and I'm talking about finances, I'm not just talking about your income, how much money you have in the bank, are you able to pay your bills? That also includes securing your assets. If you're the breadwinner of the family, if you're the one bringing home all the money, what happens if something happens to you? If either you can't work or you're no longer with us in this life, what happens to your family? In order to be a true provider for your family, whether you're the man or the woman that's making the money in the house or both, you have to be able to replace that income somehow. So all of that rolls in together, and that's part of what we're talking about here today. Am I tracking on that, Mac?
I couldn't agree with you more. And unfortunately, whoever that breadwinner is, then that oftentimes makes things that much more of what I would call a mental pressure cooker, because we feel that we have to perform because we are the breadwinner, and the responsibility is it's upon us.
So share with us some of that information. Share with us, what your thoughts are in regards to that, kind of what you do specifically for your clients. Who is your ideal client, and give our guys some ideas of what they should be considering. Because what I've found is, even in my own experience, there were things throughout my life, and there's going to be others, and I'll learn some stuff here today, I'm sure, that I never even considered.
Well, I want to start with a tip for everybody, if I may, Wally. Mm-hmm. And that tip is how I started to crawl out of that hole one step at a time. I didn't know what to do. Like I said, I was paralytic, and I was basically frozen, and I wasn't working, and I just didn't know where to turn. And I'll be the first one to tell you that I went and got some help, and the help that I sought was from a psychiatrist. I told him, I said, I'm so depressed I can't even work. What do I do? Maybe it was a good thing, maybe it was a bad thing, and it was certainly before the time when the prescription for depression is take this pill or take that pill. And what he suggested was this. He said, now, here's what I want you to do. He said, I want you to write a letter. I go, okay, yeah, I can do that. He said, and in that letter, first of all, I want you to think about somebody who you really do not like. I went, what? He said, yeah, I want you to think of somebody who you don't care for. It's somebody that you really do not like. Somebody that you've had potentially some conflict with. And the conflict that you've had with them is unresolved. I went, okay. And what I want you to do is, in that letter, I want you to make a heartfelt admission that your point of view that you were expressing, that you were at odds ends with the other person, was completely wrong, and that you were off base, and that you profusely apologize, which, of course, is not what you want to do. But more than that, what I want you to do is I want you to write down 5 of your top and favorite possessions. So I thought long and hard, what would that be? Well, with my TV, my bicycle, my this, my video record, my VHS video recorder, back, whatever, beta recorder, whatever, right? He said, good. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to, in that letter, I want you to say, as a token of your forgiveness that you're asking for in the letter because you were wrong, I want you to tell them that you're going to be giving them all of these possessions. I went, what? He said, yep. Then I want you to bring the letter in next week, and I want you to give it to me. I want you to address it. I want you to put a stamp on it. And here's how this is going to work. And I'm going, okay. So he says, I'm going to keep it in my drawer. And every week, you and I are going to make a contract for what positive steps you're going to take to move your business forward, to re-engage and get back to work, making phone calls, to do the prospecting. I know it's a much harder market. I know you're in a recession, but I also know that there is business out there, even though it may be 10 times more difficult and 50 times more scarce. You have to re-engage. Now, I'm not expecting that you're going to be working an 8-hour day. The commitment is for the first couple of weeks that you're going to be working a several-hour day. The next couple of weeks, you're going to be working a half a day. And then after that, you're going to be working at least 6 hours a day. And if you aren't willing to keep the commitment when we meet on a weekly basis, then you're going to tell me, you're going to be honest with me, and I'm going to mail the letter. I said, Doc, I can do that. As long as, we're starting this with baby steps, stuff, something that I can tolerate in terms of the time. He said, well, can you? I said, yes. That's exactly what we did. And it started to get me back in the game, Wally. And I never looked back because I started to spin a few plates. I started to get some more, some job orders. I started to make some more new contacts. Yes, it was slow, but yes, it was steady. And it was the beginning of me rebuilding, at that particular point, my executive recruiting business back so that I was making money, so that I could pay my obligations, so that I could get out of the deep, dark hole, so that I could get back in the game. And guys, if that works for you, you get the point, you know what to do, and potentially that could really, really be a major breakthrough to get you back to the motivated place that you need to be to move forward.
Yeah, that's a really good technique. And what we're talking about here, guys, is, you either do things based on gaining more pleasure or moving away from pain. You're either moving towards pleasure or moving away from pain. Sometimes you're doing them both at the same time. Yeah. Many times you're doing both at the same time, but one of the two motivates you more than the other. One of the two gets you off your ass quicker than the other. So if giving, if giving $1,000 bill or writing a $2,000 check to a trusted friend and say, I'm going to give you this if I don't get this done in this amount of time. If that's what motivates you, if that would break the bank and it would, and that's extremely painful to think about, then that might be something you'd want to consider. But the whole dynamics of this absolutely works. Thanks for sharing that with us, Mack. That's really, I really like that. I've never heard it quite put that way, but wow, that, and it puts an added, kind of an added emotional feeling to the whole process as well, because you're going to be giving your cherished possessions, regardless of what they are for you guys, to somebody who, for all intents and purposes, you hate. You have no desire to have a conversation with.
It was perfect because there was this individual who I was completely diametrically opposed to from a philosophical standpoint. And the very last thing I would ever want to do would be to admit to him that he was right
Mm-hmm.
with all of the, all the discourse that we had had.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine doing something like this, and regardless of what party you are, and say you're a Democrat, and you're going to give a $2,000 donation to the next, Republican candidate, or vice
Oh
versa?
my God. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
That's some
Exactly.
painful stuff right there for a lot of people.
So spinning the clock forward decades to where I am now, um, I'm very lucky. We, that is my wife and myself, own a financial services company. The financial services company has two divisions. We have a financing division where we do micro lending. That is, we do loans for startup businesses and or existing businesses, and we've even got a program that's a 0% APR program, so that people are not getting killed on interest. And the other component to our business, the other division, is our trust division, where folks can receive an asset protection trust, which is a far better cry than an LLC, a C, or an S, because with the trust, the type of trust that we've got, people are completely insulated and isolated against judgments if they have one. Slip and fall, they get into a car accident. I mean, if your car is in a trust and you don't own it, well, then you can't be sued for it. Again, that's another discussion, but the point is, not only do we have bulletproof asset protection, but we also, within this trust vehicle for people, we have a significant amount of tax advantages for business owners that are entrepreneurs to mitigate their tax liability through the tax deferral components that the trust has, which are outstanding. We work very closely with the law firm. We've got over 30,000 of these puppies out there since 1999. It's copywritten and it's proprietary, and it is a work truly of love and labor that took over a decade to put this proprietary trust together. So that's what I've been involved with for, oh, good gosh, with trusts and with my financial services for the last couple of decades. I've been extremely involved helping people getting their businesses up and running, getting their assets protected, and helping them with tax strategies to help them reduce on the taxes as much as possible and compress on what their out of pocket is, so that they have more money at the end of the month to be able to utilize for whatever purposes they so see fit.
Wow, that's powerful, Bruce. This is just another reason why I love to have these conversations, because as a business and life strategist, I focus a lot on business strategies, and I'm always looking for additional ways to add value to these business owners, and not always through my own program, but by introducing them to something like this, because I can see how it worked in so many different areas, and just benefit the business, just being an added value and make that connection.
I'll tell you, there's nothing that feels better than to work with a business owner who's paying 20, 30, 40 or more $1,000 in tax, and show them utilizing our strategies, if applicable, where they can be saving potentially 80, 90%, or deferring, I should say, 80, 90% of that tax liability, and kicking that tax can down the road generationally, so that they're never going to be paying it during their lifetime, and or their beneficiaries in their lifetime or heirs. This kind of opportunity is phenomenal, and the ability to be able to go to sleep at night as a business owner. Here's a crazy statistic. I think it's 66%. 66% of all surgeons get sued.
Yeah,
At least,
I worked in the medical industry for quite some time, and I can attest to that. That's true.
and
I don't know the
real,
exact number, but I know it's high.
it's crazy. So you get better than a 1 in 2 shot. The average American has a 1 in 3 shot of getting sued, I work a lot with uh, real estate investors, and real estate investors are a prime target as well. So there's so many people, unfortunately, because of our litigious society, that are exposed, and there are 91,000 personal injury lawyers out there, 25,000 slip and falls a day. So unfortunately, we want to be there to help pick up the pieces so people are insulated from these kinds of predatory behaviors from these PI lawyers that are out there. Because once they encounter the type of asset protection that we've got, they oftentimes fold up shop before things even get started. Because, if a lawyer's working on a contingency basis where they're making 30, 40, 50%, but they know that there's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, well, then why would they invest their time which is to them their money, their clock? That's how they make their money. So they don't even start. Now, here's another crazy one. The average business lawsuit, 72,500. So we're stopping these kinds of unfortunate situations. We're stopping them right in their tracks. And I'm very, very happy to say that makes a significant difference for so many people.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to be said for stuff like that, because I was also an equal opportunity advisor when I was in the Army active duty, and I did that while I was a civilian after I retired. And it's about the same. It's about $80,000 for a settlement for a sexual harassment or equal opportunity type of violation. Now, for the if there's blatant negligence and they allow that kind of stuff to go on, so be it. But when it comes to the stuff that you're talking about, like, just let's say, for instance, give you guys an idea, because you won't see this a lot with personal hospitals, because they do not have to share their personal information, their business information, their litigation. But federal hospitals do. Army, military hospitals have to share publicly because they're a federal entity. So, for instance, I worked at William Beaumont Army Medical Center. It was they would say it was the hospital under the most litigation than any other hospital. But that was because, one, they had to promote it, they had to report it. And two, there was a couple retired JAG officers that lived in the area. And what they would do is they would bring any little thing, litigation against the hospital. And all that litigation didn't mean that it was founded. Most of it was just because they're searching for ways to make money, these attorneys, and they're approaching all of these people. So, and a lot of it was just frivolous. But for the ones that, in my mind, if it's true negligence, it'll be found out and it'll be taken care of, and there's due compensation. I've seen that as well. But there's just so much stuff out there. And guys, just in any regular type of business, this right here, this type of information, knowing, arming yourself with with people like Mack, and knowing what the best ways to protect your assets and to protect your family. This right here is why the rich get richer. It's because of education, and it's because of putting the right systems into place. Thoughts on that, Mac?
I couldn't agree with you more. There was an article in Forbes 2014 that talked about the Kennedys and their generational wealth, and the fact that they have been able to achieve and maintain that wealth through the implementation of trusts. And they even talked about generational perpetuitous tax deferral. So this is not a new concept. This is something, though, that for most people, it has been completely out of their reach, out of their sphere and scope of knowledge. And I look at it that it's my mission and my company's mission to educate people. I'll tell you, you talk about another defining moment. I've been a very active real estate investor in later years. And in a 3-year period of time, I bought, rehabbed, and flipped over 160 properties, working with a lot of people that were in financial distress, trying to make a win-win, create a win-win scenario, give them some of the equity in their house because they were a couple of weeks away from being foreclosed on, take care of them, do this, do that, love them up. I had an individual, one of my door knockers, picked the individual up, took them over to the office. We had multiple cups of coffee. He got a really, really great equity split on the property. He was delightedly happy. Everything was perfect. And within 10 days, roughly, I got served with this horrific lawsuit. Now, I didn't have, at that particular point, a trust. Ultimately, it cost me about $175,000 worth of tangible, time and money, in excess of that. Are you ready for what they alleged, Wally?
Go for it.
You won't even begin to believe this. In the points and authorities, it was cited that we incarcerated and kidnapped the individual. Well, my door knocker offered to drive him over to the office instead of having him follow, right? So that was alleged. And it was alleged that he was completely inebriated. Well, that, of course, wasn't the case because he was sober as a judge. He was drinking coffee throughout the entire time that he was visiting with us. I had to pay the mortgage on that property for well over a year while we were going through this horrible situation. I had to pay the gardener expenses. I had to pay the insurances on the house, and I had to pay the pool guy for the pool guy to come out every couple of weeks to maintain the pool. And guys, I can only tell you, this is the kind of thing that, unfortunately, because we're in such a litigious society, that can happen to anybody, even if they're a neophytal investor, or maybe they've got a child who's under the age of 18, and that child drives a car or hits somebody doing something, or gets into some sort of an altercation. My good gosh, as parents, we're all responsible for our kids, and the liability of their actions falls right back on us. And this is the world that we live in today. We got the technology, but we also have all those 91,000 lawyers out there.
Yeah, it just blows my mind, man. One of the ones that aggravates me the most is when I hear on the radio, and I see the billboards out here in Florida about saying, "Did you know that you don't need to put up with the credit card collectors calling you and stuff like that? You can get out of your debt. Oh, by the way, that you promised you would pay back because you borrowed that money and applied it to something, and now you can basically rip these people off, and these lawyers are going to help you do it." I just don't get off on that, but that's a personal note.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's not right. I mean, these guys are trying to work the system and have people and help people take advantage of other people and the situation. You see these signs on the freeway. I'll give you another example. One of my accounting and tax professionals, his son got into an accident. His son was over 18. He gets a phone call from his insurance adjuster saying, looks like Ted Nugent, who's got these signs all over Atlanta, one call does it all or says it all, what have you. They had contacted them saying, it looks like we're going to pursue a lawsuit against your son, or against the guy's son. So the guy calls him up and says, look, you can sue me, but you'll come to find out, first of all, or you can sue my son because he's over 18, but we'll make him a trust funder, and we will make sure that he's not working until the statute of limitations expires. Oh, and by the way, the car that was in the accident was in a trust, and therefore there's no way that there's any kind of an award because we do not own that car personally. What do you know? That was the last that Ted Nugent was heard from. Again, these are the types of things that can happen all the time.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, just protect yourself, guys. And definitely we're going to leave some contact information so you can get more of what Mack's talking about here. Brother, right now we're at the point where we're going to pay it forward. You ready to do that?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Share 1 to 3 actionable steps that men of abundance can take today and should take today.
You were speaking just a few minutes ago, Wally, and I ascribe to exactly what you were speaking about, and that's I think one of the actionable steps that you guys can do is you can be cognizant of your debt in terms of the APRs, the annual percentage rates that you're paying in interest, and you can mitigate that. There's all kinds of strategies, and we're glad to discuss those with you. There's strategies to be able to get that crazy interest, that 17 to 24% annualized interest, so that you're not having it spiral out of control and such, and play the game that Wally was talking about. We have solutions where you can be doing balanced transfers, and we can talk about this, to a 0% options. I honestly believe that some of the best financial hygiene is to be able to control your expenses, control your debt, and to be able to rein it in. And these are the types of things that we work with our client base to be able to mitigate on that, and also to be able to have a game plan to protect themselves moving, and to protect their families moving forward from potential creditors. So that's my pay it forward, is to be able to help folks in that respect so that they really get a strong financial footing underneath them.
Excellent, man. I appreciate that. What would you recommend that our abundant leaders read or listen to, and why?
I ascribe to some of the Dave Ramsey philosophies. Dave says, don't ever get a credit card, but I can't say that I embrace or endorse what he says to the nth degree, because as a past owner of a licensed and bonded credit repair company, and Lord knows we've helped thousands of people take their credit and do turnarounds and get them from the 400s and 500s into the 700s and 800s. One of the things is that you need to have credit to be able to survive in this world, and the ones that have good credit, because they do have some credit cards that they're using responsibly, keeping the balances down at 30% maximum or less. Those are the people that are able to leverage, and those are the people that are going to be able to qualify for the lowest mortgages, so that they can end up as property owners, have the American dream, and end up in a matter of time owning their home free and clear. One other word to the wise: is rather than making your mortgage payment once a month, you can knock roughly 10 to 15 years depending, but a guaranteed 10 and usually 15 years off of your mortgage on a 30-year AM just by paying your mortgage twice a month. So take the amount that you're going to be paying, break it up into 2 payments, pay it twice a month. You'll be paying a little bit more. Or if that doesn't work for you, in December or January, make an extra payment and note on the check that you want that to apply to principal. You want a principal balance reduction. This will save you potentially thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest over a period of time.
Yeah, that's great information. I've heard that before. In fact, being a person who went $30,000 in credit card debt twice and paid my way out through various strategies. When I was first introduced to Dave Ramsey, which by the way did help a lot in getting me out of that debt. But I do agree with you as well. I don't subscribe to 100% of what Dave talks about, specifically the don't get a credit card. Because if you don't have a credit card, think about it. You're not driving. You're not taking an Uber or a Lyft. You're not renting a car when you travel. There's many things you simply cannot do if you don't have a credit card. Even sometimes they'll take cash, but they need to secure with a credit card, for instance.
And you're likely not going to get approved for a viable rate for a house or for a car loan or other things that you want to do and or need to do in your lifestyle. No credit cards, and revolving lines of credit on a credit report is a killer and will trash your FICO. So it's unrealistic. And it really does not make good sense. Again, I couldn't agree with you more, Wally.
Yeah, great stuff. So what do you feel holds most people back from living a life of true abundance, Mack?
I think I'd like to dial that question back to where I was when I was in that deep, dark, black hole in 1985. And the pure, simple answer is themselves. Mm-hmm. It's that inner core belief of what you can and what you can't do, and your ability to stay positive, even in the, how can I say it, in the throes of adversity, to be focused, to take and put one step in front of the other. And instead of being frozen into inaction and negativity and feeling sorry for ourselves, the only way out is to begin to move forward. You do that, and the rest will take care of itself.
Absolutely wonderful, man. You know, you mentioned, as far as what I'm concerned, a life of abundance, but I want to hear from you. Just kind of sum it up right here. What does living a life of abundance mean to you?
The simple, easiest word I can think of is freedom. I have the total freedom to be able to go where I want, be with who I want, when I want, if I want. I mean, I could jump on a plane tomorrow and go to an exotic place. I could go to Bali. I could go to Singapore. I could go here. I could go there. I could go anywhere. I have freedom of choice to live the lifestyle that I want. And truly, I feel that's everything, is to be able to have that freedom to make the choices that you want to make, as opposed to the inability and having to make choices that you have to make.
Excellent. Yeah, so we're going to have platinumfinancing.group.com linked up in the show notes for sure. But what else, how else can our guys get a hold of you? And what else did we not talk about that you want to ensure our abundant leaders get out of our conversation today?
Well, you know, guys, if you want to sign up for a complimentary consultation where we can talk about getting you some funding for your startup business, your dream, and or your existing business, and or you want to get more information on how you can get one of these bulletproof trusts that offer unequivocal asset protection, and for most of our clients and all of our business owners, the ability to have the significant tax advantages that they do. You could jump right on our website. I'll give that to you right now. Grab a pen and a paper. If you jump on platinumtrustgroup.com, platinumtrustgroup.com/Wally. Again, that's platinumtrustgroup.com/Wally. Or feel free, I communicate with my clients on a one-on-one basis. I'm delighted to give you my phone number too, but it's really much better if you get on the website. On the website, there's a calendar, and that calendar will block out time on my schedule where you and I can sit down and have a chat about where you are, where you want to go, and how we can plug in and help you get there with the different services that we've got to be able to get you there. Again, that's platinumtrustgroup.com/Wally. My direct phone number for your reference is 702 area code 371-2345. Again, that's 702-371-2345. But my suggestion is get on the website at the platinumtrustgroup.com/Wally and book a time. Then that way we won't be rushed, and we can chat and go over some really good stuff for you.
Excellent, Bruce. I greatly appreciate that, man. And guys, if you're not in a position right now to write that down, don't worry about it. I'll have it linked up in the show notes at menofabundance.com. Just search Bruce, and the episode in the show notes will be right there for you guys. So, Bruce, again, man, great conversation. I greatly appreciate all the information. I look forward to connecting with you myself. And, man, just go out and live your life of abundance and keep paying it forward.
Couldn't agree with you more, Wally, and I can't thank you enough for the opportunity to be on your show today.
My pleasure. All right, guys. After working with so many business owners as I have and entrepreneurs, many business owners don't look at their financials at all. I mean, just the basics. They're not looking at how much they're spending. They have accounts that they've been paying for that they don't need. If you don't look at your financials, you cannot grow financially. In fact, what generally happens when you're not looking at your financials and your accounting is you're losing money, hand over fist. And this is one of the first things I do when I sit down with a new client, because I know that I can generally find several $1,000s in profits just by going through their financials and canceling many of the services that they're paying for that they don't need, or readjusting and renegotiating some of the contracts that they have with vendors. This is back to the basics type of stuff. And then once you get that stuff under control, then it's time to start looking at the information that Bruce was talking about to protect your assets and get your money working for you. Now, go out, live your life of abundance, and guys, make sure to pay it forward.
That's all for today, Abundance Leaders. For more about our guests and the powerful information we shared with you today, be sure to sign up for our mailing list at menofabundance.com. We appreciate your time and look forward to hanging out with you on our next episode. So until then, be sure to pay it forward and live your life of abundance.